took our rig and our family and we went in to this very remote location where his cabin was. And then within sight of the cabin, we blew a CV joint. Without coffee, you cannot get going in the morning. And then when you get here, it's going to create an amazing experience that you'll have for the rest of your life. So enjoy those memories while you can.
You're listening to the GHT Overland podcast.
Those wild winds of Utah have blown us into the beautiful state of Arizona as we bring you an informative, inspirational episode on Alaska. I wish I had that Alaska, the Discovery Channel.
Alaska, the Last Frontier.
No, that's trademarked. You probably can't say that. That's a show name. But at the very end, they say Alaska. It's always very cool. Lisa, do you know how many states start with the letter A?
I should know this. I'm going to guess
We learned it in
4.
middle school. Come on, 4. You nailed it. Ding, 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 ding. How many miles is it from Flagstaff, Arizona to Anchorage, Alaska?
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know there was going to be a geography test.
There's always a test. There's no searching on Google. No, Lisa.
Okay, let's see.
You're the best person I know at guessing game.
3,232 miles.
Pretty close. So the answer is really, it depends.
Oh, of course.
On what route you're going to take, right?
Yeah, true.
Are you going to take the shortest route? Are you going to take the scenic route? Are you going to take the overland route? What do you want to go on the coast? Do you want to just go as fast as you can get there?
This is true.
All these things depend. So if we were to go the way that I would go and tell you as the navigator that we're going to go, just shy of 3,900 miles.
I was close.
You were close. That's why I went, ugh. Okay. And what's the average temperature this time of year in Flagstaff and in Anchorage?
72.
For which one?
Both.
You think Anchorage and Flagstaff have the same average temperature in the month of May?
Well, it's spring.
Oh, good golly. Okay, so you're just giving up. So Flagstaff is 68.
Oh, okay.
Is average for the month of May. And in Anchorage, 53.
Oh.
This is going swellingly well.
Well, I mean, I didn't think that Anchorage probably still has some snow. Or it's surrounding.
Well, it's not Barrow, Alaska. It's Anchorage, so it's very far south as Alaska goes. And for the bonus round, how many hours of daylight in Anchorage in the month of May? So same thing. We're not changing anything up. And in Flagstaff, average in the month of May, how many hours of daylight does each have?
Holy cow. I would have been able to study for this test.
Well, then it wouldn't be as much fun, would it?
Flagstaff, I'm going to say...
Dun, 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 dun.
12 hours.
Okay.
And Anchorage, I'm going to say 19.
And the average is Anchorage, Alaska coming in at 17.4 hours, and for Flagstaff, 14. Now, you may be asking yourself, why are we talking about Flagstaff and Anchorage? Well, this week's guest is from Anchorage, Alaska, and we are headed to Flagstaff, Arizona for Expo West. So there you go. It all comes together. Lisa, you want to go through a few short updates on our overland travel, full of adventure, almost always on the fence between epic and sketchy road life?
I giggle because that is for sure. Oh, okay. So traveling to
Minnesota? You
No.
were just about to say Minnesota.
I was going to say multiple. Traveling to some of the national forests.
National parks, you mean?
National parks, excuse me.
Oh, boy. Lisa has not had her evening coffee.
Well, the heat, I think, has hit me today.
Well, it is 9:05 in the evening.
At 86 degrees.
In the Victor camper with a nice cross breeze because we always park north and south, so we're getting that east-west wind.
Yes. Okay. So I've enjoyed bouncing to different national
Parks. Oh, boy.
So it's been windy. And
it was
it's
windy
been
in Utah. Holy cannoli.
sandy.
Oh, the wind blew the dust.
We've been cleaning twice a day.
That red Utah clay dust. Ugh. Ouch.
Woo-wee.
Lots of cleaning.
But the views have been
geez,
amazing.
Just phenomenal.
Like the photographs and videos you've been taking are like primo, but there's that at next level of jaw dropping when you're live in person.
You can't capture it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care how long you've been staring at Instagram, Facebook, or the Snapchat. You don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go see these places if the opportunity ever comes up. I think the number one that really stood out for me was Arches National Park. The more times we rounded a corner, went in and looked at something and were just awestruck.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from any of the others.
No.
But that's just for whatever reason the one that just comes to mind first at this very moment.
Uh-huh.
And then when we first showed up to Moab, not to cut you off, but I will forget because I'm old and I have memory loss problems. When we first showed up to that first place we camped in Moab, the flowers in the desert, oh my gosh, that was just insane.
Yeah. It's almost like there's so much life in the desert that you don't realize.
Well, I think we got lucky with the time of year.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It was
absolutely
gorgeous.
Pretty.
Absolutely gorgeous. Lisa, in the last week, what's been the most epic for you? Like, what's the number one thing that stands out that was just, amazing?
In the last week, I'm going to say Mesa Arch in Great Reef.
Oh, really? Surprise, surprise. That was really cool. We've got some good pictures.
Yeah. I think it's the whole, even though it's smaller, it's the whole landscaping because it had some trees, but not like huge trees, and sand and rock. And then you took this short little hike up man-made steps, like super cool. And then, boom, there's this arch.
Boom.
And you can sit in front of it to get a picture.
Or you could stand.
But
Lisa had to sit.
Because
equilibrium.
I turned around and looked over it, and it goes straight down. And I felt a little tipsy, so I'm like, ooh.
Been a long time since you felt a little tipsy.
I know.
What was the most sketchy?
Overall?
Yeah.
Anytime? Oh.
Well, not in our entire life together, but just in the last week.
The drive we took down BLM
into some canyon.
Like the canyon walls were.
It was epic. It was not sketchy. It was epic.
Well, the sketchy part was
when the road ended.
Well, it said road damage.
It did say road damage.
It just didn't. It didn't say dead end.
It should have.
Yes. So we continued.
Impassable except for motocross.
Yes. So it's all down grade.
It was down.
And windy.
And the winds were just ripping through that canyon like atrocious speeds.
So halfway.
That was awesome.
Halfway to our goal point of staying that night.
Oh, we actually made it halfway?
Yeah, about halfway.
Navigator Pro. Okay.
So what was road work was they've got a big, huge rock tower thing you want to call it.
Yeah, envision those
fell on the road.
Huge
at an angle.
Rock towers. What do they call them? They go.
It's the one. Yeah,
straight
it's
up in the
one
air.
that's going to balance at the tippy top.
Yeah, so as you're going through Moab, Utah, that kind of scenery, and you're looking at these things going, wow, they balance these things really well. Well, this particular one fell right over across the road, and I'm pretty sure only motorcycles,
yeah, like
moto people would be able to get through there. There's somebody on a Vespa.
So we had to turn around.
I don't even think you can get a tuk-tuk through there.
No, you couldn't. It would be too tall.
And your turnaround point is like at a 15, 20-degree angle.
Right.
In soft sand on top of...
sketchy part.
on top of the rock.
Right. Yeah.
Whew. Lisa called it a sphincter moment.
Yep.
I called it epic. It was amazing. Okay, let's do some numbers real quick. Lisa, do you have your numbers so that we can report the cost of lodging and or campsites for the last week?
Okay, so the newest charge was we were arriving later than normal, not quite dark. So we did end up going, I think it was called Willow Springs Campground. So it was
was at National Reef Great
Reef
National Park.
Yeah.
We had a weak moment. It was super windy. We checked out another camp place on BLM. It was like, it is crazy windy and dusty here. We want to get out of this.
Last spot open, we grabbed it.
Well, it was a half a spot open because some kids were already parked there. We're like, hey, we'll pay for the spot if you let us park next to you.
Yeah.
And it was so windy, they were in a little tent, and they ended up ditching the whole thing in about 2 hours.
Yeah. I was surprised their tent didn't fly away.
So in the entire time since we've left Fort Lupton, we have only paid for one spot, which was at a National Park campground, purely out of convenience, $15.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Better than last week. Cost of food? What do you got next?
So for the last 10 days, our new amount is $242.41 for food. So that's $24.24 a day divided by 3 meals. So it's coming out to be $8 for the both of us to eat 3 meals a day.
What?
Yep.
For real?
Yeah.
Nice job. Okay, you're in charge of all grocery shopping and cooking from now on. Fuel cost?
I have always been in charge of the cooking.
Okay, so it's not new news. We're just verifying.
Okay. Fuel. New fuel has been $187.87. So daily $31.47.
For roughly the last week. So we've probably filled up twice.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're learning to fill up both
when
fuel and water, even though we don't report on water, anytime we have the opportunity. Or I tell Lisa when we hit a half a tank of gas, hey, we're at a half a tank. Why don't you pull up gas, buddy? Start looking around.
Yeah.
Because we don't wait till we start getting empty. And then any miscellaneous costs we should go through?
We do have a new miscellaneous of $556.75. Sorry for that jaw drop moment you just had. So car wash, Arches Pass for the annual pass, $80.
Oh, not Arches, just National Park Pass for the year. Okay.
There's a true value for the inverter. We stopped at REI because we were going to do a top of the roof storage unit.
That stuff is expensive, those Yakima rack parts. Yeah. So we're going to return all that stuff and do something different because they don't have all the parts we want to get anyway. So we don't need these ultra expensive little bracket things. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. So that'll be like almost 300 something that goes back. And what else was I thinking there? Miscellaneous costs. So we did pick up an inverter. Last time we said we had no way to charge your computers. We do now. I am so impressed with this high-tech solar. It's just one panel and these 3 lithium batteries. Like, now my goal is to try and kill them throughout the day, and it seems impossible to do. We've got computers we charge about 3 times a day. We've got... I haven't plugged the drone batteries into them yet. We ran the AC most of today. It's working really, really well. Super, super impressed.
Yeah. And then, I don't know if we touched base last time, laundry expense. We are going to try the bucket.
It didn't work out so good. It may in the future, but
yeah,
we don't have the extra water to rinse. If we were
Right.
going to be close to a river to do it, then that would be a whole nother story.
yeah. So we did have $8.50 for one load wash dry in
bad.
Moab.
Not bad. Anything else?
No, I think we're up to date.
Okay, so current total since leaving Fort Lupton, Colorado, thanks to the route tracking on Gaia GPS, miles driven, 1,019.32, moving speed average, 30.6 miles per hour. If anyone's interested, I just happen to like numbers. Driving time, 33 hours and 21 minutes. Stop time, roughly 39 hours, not including our at camp time. So because we're going slow and taking some of these back roads and then stopping and doing some little bit of hiking or taking a look at the overlooks or doing whatever we're doing, we're moving kind of slow. And that was the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So I think we're knocking that one out of the park. Pun worked out pretty well, not intended, but that's the way it is. Stop time. Did I say stop time? I already covered that. We've climbed a total of 35,567 feet and descended a total of 39,529 feet. I'm guessing in great thanks to the Rocky Mountains. And as we came into Arizona, going down inside, well, not really inside the Grand Canyon, but coming down from, what was the last park we were at?
Great Reef.
Great Reef National Park?
Yep.
No, Bryce.
Excuse me.
Bryce.
Yeah.
And then into, what canyon are we in today?
Marble Canyon.
Marble Canyon. Oh, epic.
Amazing.
Epic. There, well, right now I think we've got 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 campers, but all like spread out by at least 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
And all day today, we're the only ones here.
Yeah.
Amazing. All the campgrounds are full. Good thing campgrounds weren't our game plan.
Yeah. If we had easy access to the Colorado River in some of the pictures that they may see.
That's not easy access.
But I'm saying if there was easy access, that's where I truly want to be.
Oh, if you could park down there?
Yeah.
I think you'd have to take a rafting trip. I could be wrong. Okay, Lisa, on to this week's guest. This week's guest is Craig of Alaska Overlander. Craig grew up in Christchurch, New Zealand, then moved to his wife's home state of Alaska in 2001. After several years of overseeing Olympic National Park hotels in Washington State, they were pulled to Alaska, back home. Alaska Overland was started by Brooke and Craig in the midst of the COVID pandemic with just 2 vehicles. We dive into all the details throughout the interview, and we found it absolutely fascinating that a family-run business has everything you need to skip thousands of miles of driving before exploring the largest state in the country, Alaska. Alaska Overlander rents primarily Toyota platform rigs, fully kitted out, so all you have to do is jump on a plane with your clothes and explore the great state of Alaska. So let's dive into this week's episode with Craig of Alaska Overlander.
The ideal one-stop shopping. You can cut that out if you don't like it. Be sure to tag us on the social medias so we can see what kind of awesomeness you're up to. #GHT Overland. This episode is brought to you by GHT Overland. Please keep in mind we'd love your support. Keeping all the algorithm spirits happy is kind of necessary. So if you wouldn't mind, at minimum, Level 1 Love is taking a second to leave a rating on iTunes or the podcast platform you listen on. Anything from a short little I like it to whatever you're feeling. Without constant love from you, we're just sludge at the bottom of a lost cold coffee cup. Level 2 Love is found on GHToverland.com. This is where we maintain a list of recommended apps, books, and gear. Thank you to everyone who has used these links. This also helps us earn a commission, costing you nothing extra. Level 3 Love is on Patreon. This is your opportunity to support the GHT Overland podcast with monthly little thank yous that help us pay web hosting fees, podcast hosting, and all the things that keep the podcast growing and improving. This is also how you get your hands on some sweet swag. Thank you for joining us as we pursue a renewed life mission of putting the best in people and nature on display, while tackling the ugly Goliath of today by consistently placing positivity and respect for others in front of everything else.
Craig, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I believe you're in Anchorage. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep, in the sunny Anchorage.
Sunny. So, what's the typical weather there this time of year in the spring, like in April, May in Anchorage? What does it typically look like?
There is no such thing as typical weather in Alaska. That's one of the joys of the state. Right now, we've had an amazing winter, a lot of snow that's come through, which we are hoping is going to be good for the fire season that typically comes through. But right now, the snow's melted, starting to come to life a little bit. We're starting to see buds growing on the trees. It's an exciting time for Alaskans, and the fact that we're getting through what's called our breakup season. And we see summer is very close. So we're all excited. We're planning. We're getting ready for the year.
Okay, super cool. And so, of course, most of us in the lower 48 consider like Alaska in the summer is like light all the time. I don't know if that's true in Anchorage. Like, how late does it stay light there now?
Right now, we're what's called twilight. So the further north you go right now, is the chances of seeing northern lights this late in the season are pretty rare, because there's this kind of late twilight. It's not very dark as it stands right now. So we're gaining about 5 to 6 minutes of light every day right now.
Ooh, sweet.
Ooh, nice.
One of my life goals is I have to see the northern lights. It's like a bucket list thing. Hopefully we actually make it up there late. I don't know if it's going to be fall or summer. Somehow we absolutely need to do that. We just don't know how that's going to work. We have some obligations.
If you really want to see the
September.
northern lights, the best time to come up really is like that late August time frame, because right now we're gaining light. So it's kind of a really unique timing. The way Alaska is configured. So May, June, we're really gaining light every day. It's very long days. Alaska's kind of coming to life. Everything's kind of coming to bloom. Animals are awaking. Trees are the deciduous trees are coming green. It's a beautiful time. But then on the tail end of that July, we start gaining that darkness back. And so really August is if you want to come see the northern lights, August and September are really great times to come up. Still beautiful and green during the day. But you start seeing a little bit more of those late nights. So mid-August to September is really a good time to come up to see northern lights in Alaska.
It's going to make a tight schedule, but somehow we're going to make it work. I promise.
Yep.
So, Craig, I'm curious.
We'd love to see you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. How did COVID impact the tourism industry up there in Anchorage, Alaska?
It definitely changed it. I mean, Alaska is typically known as a cruise destination. And so Alaska tourism and hospitality is really kind of relied on cruise tourism for Alaska. With COVID, it took away those cruise passengers and then really opened up Alaska to this independent traveler that we saw come through. So Alaska is it's a safe place. It is a safe location. I think people felt that they didn't want to travel overseas during COVID. They saw Alaska really as a good opportunity to be inside the state, somewhere that they could fly to in a safe way and be able to still explore and travel. So we saw a lot of independent travel last year, a lot of growth, and it was a pretty amazing year, candidly, in regards to the independent traveler. And I think a lot of Alaska tourism realized the importance of that market, and that we could survive without the cruise industry. Not that we don't want the cruise ship industry; it's a balancing act of and seeing that it's just as important as a cruise industry is. And then, of course, Alaska is one of those areas where, and the reason why we got into overlanding was it's a great opportunity for people to come see a beautiful place, go explore in an overlanding vehicle, and not be around people. You don't have to be around people. You can go to a lot of these locations where the remote
My kind of
boondocking
place.
sites, yeah, where it's just you, yourself, the friends that you're with, or the family that you're with, in these beautiful locations, and you kind of feel like got the whole state to yourself.
And are things looking good this year for you, even with these insane gas prices?
They are. It's for us. We're pretty much booked out for majority of the summer season. For the season, our booking window typically starts around about pretty much December, and people are looking for longer term rentals, and they're looking for that one experience that they can kind of go out and see Alaska. And so, typically they're renting for a minimum of 10 days. And we've even got rentals that are going out there for 3 weeks, where
Nice.
they're renting the vehicles. And we've been chatting with them in regards to where they want to go. They want to see it all. They want to go to the far north, where they can go see the dead horse. They want to come down through Aitken Pass. They're also going to Chicken. They're doing into Canada as well. And seeing Denai Highway and Kennecott, and they're going to have just amazing experiences. So we've seen some really good growth. We started this business 2 years ago in the midst of the pandemic, and that was the reason why we decided to do it as an opportunity for us. We were in the middle of the pandemic. My wife and I and our 3 kids. We just got tired of being stuck in our house. We wanted to travel and get out. We've always traveled with our family and our kids. We believe that opening up a kid's mind is through travel, and we had wanted to see somewhere that was safe. So we wanted to do Grand Canyon. So we ended up finding a rental rig that was down in Vegas, and we did Grand Canyon. We did Sedona with our kids, and we thought it was a great opportunity to get a rig, be away from people, but see these amazing places. And then, every night around the campfire, my wife and I are chatting. You're like, this is a great model. This could really work in Alaska, and we could really help allow people to do the similar experiences in Alaska. And so we just started with 2 vehicles, Denali and the Nana. We opened it up for bookings. We kind of created this business in December. 2021 was our first season, and we created a website, and we wanted to really create this experience where people could, talk to locals, have a local rig, jump on a plane just with their clothes, and everything is kind of kitted out, and they can explore the state. And that's kind of really what started it off, just the 2 rigs. We realized pretty quickly as we saw the interest in this experience, that we needed to add vehicles. So friends and families came to us and asked them to consign our rigs through us. And we had 4 vehicles in our first season. And then this year we've added an additional couple of vehicles, and we're up to 9 vehicles this year.
That's awesome. And how long have you and your wife been in Alaska?
This is a uniquely Alaskan accent that I'm speaking with right now. I'm from New Zealand originally, born and raised in Christchurch, New Zealand. My wife was traveling around the world after her college, and she bumped into me in New Zealand, and I made the mistake of falling in love, and said that I would come to Alaska for 2 years, and that was back in 2001, and have been in the state ever since. It's my wife is from a small town, a small fishing community called Cordova, Alaska. And we ended up settling in Anchorage, and then worked in tourism for a majority of my life. And then at a certain point, it's no longer about where you live. It's more about where your family lives, and what is the best place that you want to grow with them. And that's why Alaska is home.
No, that's awesome. So what I found absolutely fascinating about your business, Alaska Overlander, is, like you just said, is that you rent properly outfitted overland rigs for people clearly to rent, which is brilliant. And then doing it in Alaska, in my mind, double brilliant. So, like so many of us dream of that Alaska overland trip through the backcountry. But you you've removed the biggest barrier to doing that. There's no more, you don't have to fight through years of building the perfect rig, spending oodles of money doing that build out, and then driving 1,000+ miles before the Alaska adventure even begins. You book a rig with Alaska Overlander, and boom, it's adventure time. It's just brilliant. Just brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and even if you just want to come up to Alaska and do some investigating and kind of see some of the spots, it takes away the pressure too as well. If you eventually do want to come back with your own rig and make the drive up through Canada, it allows you to be able to see what it's like, see areas that you can explore too. Not everybody has the ability to be able to take off that length of time during summer. So if you've got 2 weeks off, jump on a plane, fly up here, rent one of our vehicles, see the state, have an amazing experience, and then get those juices flowing for the next time you want to bring your own rig up too as well. That's an option for you. But definitely, we're trying to make it easy and get it out there for people to come explore the state.
Is it you and your wife that run the business?
Yes. Yep. I build the rigs, and my wife runs the reservations and the booking side of it. And then combined, we as part of the service that we provide, we do go pick up people from either the hotel or the airport. We walk them back through to each of the vehicles, so that way they know how to operate all the functionality of the vehicles, how to engage forward drive, how to use the awning, how to open up the tents, how to work the dual battery systems. And that walkthrough pretty much takes 45 minutes. And of course, it's a great chance to interact and get to know people too as well, and kind of talk about, that next stage of their journeys. As part of that reservation process or that booking process, we get to know people really far in advance. Like, why are they coming to Alaska, and what's their motivation? What are some of the things that they want to see while they're up here? And then we can help them in regards to, all right, these are the spots you want to hit. This is the area that you want to hit. This is what you want to do. I recommend booking this first. So when we get to see them at the airport, they're all friends at that stage. We've gotten to know them pretty well. And then we send them out with their rig, and then on the back end of it, we get to hear their amazing experiences that they've had. And the return process, we always say to ourselves, is 30 minutes, but we always end up talking to someone for 2 hours because we're kind of catching up on how their trip was and sharing their experiences, and then we drop them off at the airport, and on they go.
That's awesome. So if we rent a rig from you and we fly into Anchorage, what's left for us to bring? So if somebody rents a rig from you, what are the things they should plan on packing and bringing with them?
With the rigs, the way that we set up the rigs, we wanted to make sure that we had everything that you would need for the trip. So we include pots and pans, we include even toilet paper, we include cutlery sets, tables, kitchen sets, seats as well is all included. Everything is there as part of the vehicle's kit and cleaned and ready to go. So the concept is that you just really grab your clothes that you want to bring with. So, obviously we recommend layers as the key, because every day is different and every temperature is different. So bring layers, grab your clothes. You don't need any of your gear. Just jump on the plane, fly up here, and then hit the road.
Boom.
Stop at the grocery store.
Stop at a grocery store. That's the first step.
So it sounds like
we do offer a service. If you pre-order your groceries, we will pick that up and we'll load it in your vehicle and have it ready for you.
Okay, so very clearly your experience in the hospitality industry is paying dividends, because you've got this pretty dialed in.
One-stop shopping.
Well, you can either offer just a basic service, or we're spending this time getting these vehicles ready. Either way, we really wanted to elevate that experience. And some people want to take advantage of that in regards to, they want to know what the sites are, where the location, what routes they're going. Some people just really want to come up and have a relaxing vacation. So we may not hear from them at all at any point in time during the pre-process. And they just want to take Alaska in as it comes. Everyone's different. So, we've had we offer a variety of experiences, and we offer a variety of services that really matches the customer's needs.
It's just brilliant. It's awesome. They've got it dialed in, obviously.
I mean, Chris is talking a lot, but he's actually really speechless.
So you'd mentioned that you help with route planning. Can you dive a little deeper into that? Like, what does that look like based on, like, do you talk to them? What are your goals? Like, is there an end place you're trying to get, and then you kind of fill in the gaps? What does that look like?
Exactly. And every person's different and every experience is different. So that's one of the first questions we ask is like, well, what are you looking to get from your experience up in Alaska? Are you looking to do activities and fishing? Then probably the Seward Peninsula is a good option for you. Are you a true overlander? And if that's the case, then probably going to Adegan Pass, the Denali Highway, or out to Kennecott would be the locations that I would recommend and kind of shift you to. And so it really depends on what you are looking for from your experience. Alaska is a very broad state. The islands and the Seward Peninsula is a very different experience as it is from the interior of Alaska. Based on the amount of time that you have and the length of time, I'll kind of help shape your experience for you. But really, it all depends on kind of what you want out of your experience.
Got it. Makes sense. Lisa, you're pushing me.
I know. Get out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle breakdowns if someone has a mishap in that remote Alaskan backcountry?
Really, it comes down to we have bought new rigs for that reason. We buy Toyotas. We build them in a way that we know that they're going to be capable of doing majority of what they're doing, which is a lot of asphalt and dirt roads. And so we've been very fortunate that we haven't had any breakdowns, but a lot of that comes down to maintaining your vehicle correctly. We put 3-inch lift on our Toyotas. The platform itself, Toyota, is a very reliable platform. We put brand new wheels on there. We have a full-size spare included as part of every single rental. So that way, if there's any issues with a flat tire, that they've got a full-size spare ready to change out. We offer satellite phones or satellite messaging options too as well to communicate if you are in areas where you don't have cell phone signal. In the case where it is a breakdown, we would respond ourselves if it's local. If it's further north or further south, we will utilize some services that we have in those areas to help you getting unstuck or fix your vehicle. But fortunately, we haven't had any issues because we like to plan for that in advance just by the quality of the vehicles that we have and the quality of equipment that we put on those vehicles. But issues happen and accidents happen, and if they do, we give our cell phone out to every single client, and we say, any issues that you have, give us a call, text us, and we will respond immediately.
So whether somebody's renting from you or not, what do you see that most overlanders are not preparing for properly to go to Alaska?
For overlanders, I would say it's kind of the opposite. I think people over-prepare or overpack. I would say that there's this mentality of Alaska is, don't be daunted when coming to Alaska. I'd say that the key things you need to prepare for would be good tires, as would be number one. The roads up here, you're going to be doing a lot of asphalt driving, but then the off asphalt roads would be have some, depends on the road maintenance, depends on the year, depends on how much rain that we've had on those roads and how well they've been maintained. This could be sharp rocks, so just enable to make sure that you ear down to the right amount of air pressure and make sure you've got good tires, and you'll be able to go out to some of these locations like Petersville or the Kennecott Mines or the Denali Highway, and you'll be prepared. I'd say that Alaska's a big state, and so there's a lot of distance that you need to cover. And so I'd say that while it may look smaller distance on a map, just allow yourself a lot of time to be able to go. Give yourself some flexibility too as well, especially when it comes to weather. If you're coming into Alaska and you're in this area and you want to see XYZ locations, spend some time, look advanced in regards to what the weather's doing. Be flexible in regards to your schedule on how you want to see things and where you want to see it, and allow yourself some drive time to get to that point. Those are always the key areas that I target when it comes to advice on regards to locations. And then understand too that there's 2 seasons in Alaska, which is winter and construction too as well. So there can be some construction on some of those major highways, and that will dictate how some of your planning is too as well. We'll talk later on in regards to some resources that I recommend that you have, and keep an eye on those road conditions is probably one of those top areas to keep an eye on.
Craig, what's the minimum time you would recommend someone try and plan for to really make their trip up to Alaska everything that it could be?
Again, it comes into what do you want to achieve during that time. I would say as a minimum would be, if you have 5 days, not including the travel day on either side of it, let's say you want to take a week off, I'd recommend staying on the Seward Peninsula. So Homer, Seward, the Kenai River, Hope, and Valdez, those communities. And that's a good 5-day experience. And you'd see a lot of beauty and some wonderful location. If your next minimum, I would say, would be 10 days. And that will allow you to see some of the interior as well as some of the Seward Peninsula, or maybe a little bit more of that interior of Alaska. The ideal time frame would be 3 weeks, right, to really see the state and be able to see a good portion of the interior and Seward, and allow time for you to be able to tick off all your bucket list items.
So can you give us a sneak peek on a few favorite places of yours that might not be on most people's radar? Absolutely.
I love the Denali Highway. I used to work in tourism, and I was working in hotels that were based out of Denali National Park. And for me, my escape for the weekends was taking my family and going camping on the Denali Highway. It just holds a special place in my heart. It's a beautiful area. It used to be the original access road into the Denali State National Park, I should say. And it's spectacular. There's no such thing as a bad camping spot along those locations. And there's some good offshoot roads that you can go explore and really take the full time. Petersville is it's an unknown that not even most Alaskans really know about. It's a great little, it's known as a playground of Alaska for snow machines, but then during the summer season, it really doesn't get looked at too much. So Petersville is a really, really cool area. And then Adigan Pass and making it up to that far north is a very spectacular spot. You can just go north of the Arctic Circle. It's a long road, but it's an amazing drive, and that's a really great area. And then the other one I recommend is Kennecott Mine. It's just a very cool national park that's at the end of it. It's this old copper mine that has been really in great condition. The route out to that way, it's a lot of good camping spots to see, a lot of good interior Alaska. You can peel off and add it in Valdez very easily too as well, and see where the end of the pipeline is. There's a great little glacier that you can camp out down there in Valdez, and then just the road coming down into Valdez is a pretty amazing experience too as well. So those are some of the most popular destinations that I recommend that people see. And then, as far as like offshoot roads, we're still finding them right now. I've got a really bad case of what's down that roaditis. So as I drive through Alaska, I'm always like looking on maps or looking down certain roads, and sometimes you may just end up in a dead end, but sometimes you end up finding a lake at the end of it, which is a rare spot. And that's kind of how our Alaskan adventures have gone, where it's just been kind of seeing what's down that road and seeing what's out there and finding new spots, and sometimes trips work out well, sometimes they don't. And then we just share that knowledge with our guests.
That is the adventurer in all of us. I don't know that you can, that any true adventure seeking personality would look at 5 roads and not wonder what's down there. Let's go see that one.
Exactly. Yeah.
There might be a really cool lake. There might be a good view.
Yep.
That is awesome. So let's talk about cost. What's the cost to rent your rigs? If you can give us kind of a brief overview at the 30,000 foot level.
Not a problem. So included in every rental is 150 miles. You can upgrade to unlimited miles for $25 a day. Our average rental ranges from $259 up to $289 per day. And that includes everything that you come with a base rental. We've seen, especially on the pricing side of it, where there's been a lot of gouging going on, but we were a new business and we wanted to make sure that we established our model very early on and be consistent with it. So we felt that was a good fair pricing for including in the vehicle and the amount of miles it's included. And then there's add-ons at that point. You can add on recovery gears if you want to. We do max tracks and air compressors too as well. We also have portable toilets, hiking poles. We're looking at doing kayaks too as well as part of an add-on option. But really that base price is that $259, and then the minimum length of stay, which right now is about 7 days, is what the minimum length of stay is for us.
Okay. So this is really good. You're at $1,830 for 7 days. Do you know how much you would spend building one of these rigs? And the time and the trouble and that just covers the cost to get to Alaska. That's amazing.
Well, I'm thinking the aspect that's a mortgage payment, and I could be in Alaska.
Well, you could also, sorry, we're getting a little excited here, Greg. You could, let's say you just went to Alaska and you rented a hotel room. That's what the hotel room would cost you. And the hotel room doesn't take you anywhere.
Exactly.
No. Hotel rooms in Alaska during the summer, even in Anchorage, you're probably about $289 a night, much less a rental car, which is probably about $150 right now for a summer. So, as I said, we definitely wanted to find that right price point that was allowing people to have an amazing experience. We really focus more on that length of stay is kind of important, so that way people are coming up here and having that amazing experience. The level of care that we take with our vehicles when they come back, we want to make sure that we allow at least 2 days for the vehicle to be completely cleaned, looked over, restocked, and ready to go for the next rental. And so, it's that's part of the model in regards to building out that estimate for cost.
Okay, how far in advance do we need to book?
As I said, for the year, you can start booking for next year.
We have 5 windows of time right now with various vehicles available and during the summer, and they're limited in regards to time. I think they're about 5 to 6 days right now for the season. So there is some space this season, especially early May too as well, which candidly is my favorite time because I've lived up here, so I've gone through the winter, I've gone through the dark, and then I start seeing what I would view warmth in the air. We're sitting probably anywhere from 65 degrees at this time frame, and it's the trees have got this most vibrant green that you can think of as everything's coming to life. The animals are active, the moose are calving. You've got bears that have been coming from the slumber and are exploring. You've got some of the May, September, some of actually the best time to see wildlife because the trees aren't fully bloomed out, so you're seeing through into the trees. Gray whales are migrating up to Alaska during that time as well. Orcas are here if you're looking for the wildlife experience as well. So May for me is you got a little bit more availability in regards to activities. Candidly, Alaskans aren't burned out by tourist season at that stage too as well. So there's a lot of energy and excitement in the air. So I would say that May to me is always kind of that hidden treasure trove of time to come to Alaska, and early May through end of May is a spectacular time, and no one really comes during that time of the typical travel season. June and July are peak season. And as such is the time that, Alaska tourism is at full bore energy, and there's a lot of people on the road and activities are fully booked up. So that's why June, July to me, wonderful time of year to come. But I would say that I really like those May. I really like those August timeframe. I love September, especially in Alaska when you've got such a big state and you're making that transition down from, you can go up to Adigan Pass and there's snow and ice and winter starting to come. And as you go further south, every 100 miles is like going back a week in time in regards to the weather. You've got this, the leaves are turning colors as you go through the interior. And at various stages, as you go south, then you hit Anchorage and you're in September and it's still green and summer mode. So, it's kind of a very interesting time of year. The Northern Lights are out, which is amazing as well to see when you're out there. For overlanding, I would say that early May and then that late August, September is, if you truly want to see that overlanding experience, that's a great time to go. I'm not saying that June and July are not bad. It's just to me that it's unique and different, and they bring their own interests for sure.
Love it. So we're watching baby geese and excited about that. They're watching baby moose and bears. Sounds much better. So how often are you and your family able to get out and explore now that you have the business Alaska Overlander running at full steam?
That's a loaded question, especially in our household. We would love to go out as much as we can do. So we really, what we've done is we've sat down with our friends that we want to go camping with. We've looked at where our windows of bookings go out, and we've now selected our weekends of, we are absolutely doing this location. We're absolutely doing this location. We're doing that now. So we've had to be very concise in regards to what our time is and doing it. But our kids aren't getting any younger. Life is not getting any shorter, and we've got to make sure that when you see the time, you got to grab it and get out there and do it. So that's a lot of what has been driving us this year on our adventures.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 14, and he still wants to be around us, which I classify that as a win.
Ooh, take advantage of that.
And our twins are 11.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
That's fun.
Girls, boys, twins?
Boy, girl, twin. Boy, girl, twin.
And the twins are?
11.
And boy
11,
and girl?
Yep.
So like you and your
boy,
brother?
Girl.
Yeah, like me and my brother.
Lisa's a twin.
Yeah.
She has a brother.
Oh, excellent.
They have the same birthday.
I'm hoping I'm the prettier of the two.
Yeah. It's an amazing with twins how different a personality they can be, right from day one. And they enjoy camping, they enjoy getting dirty, they enjoy what Alaska has to offer, and it's amazing when you take kids out into the outdoors, away from iPads and away from all the devices, and just sit back and watch them and let their brains kind of expand and explore. And I'm a big proponent on creating memories, and that's especially with kids. You may not be able to control too much in regards to what they do with their life and where they go, but one thing you can do is fill their memory banks of amazing times and experiences that they can have as they get older too as well. So that's one of the key things for me and my kids, is just getting out there and living life and seeing these amazing places in this amazing world that we live in.
Wisdom. What's the biggest challenge you've had to face when you've been out on your own? And what did you learn from that we might learn from?
Probably for me, it would be more going past what my rig is capable of, or not being prepared for what my rig is capable of. So getting out into a trail, being pretty remote, away from communications, and then something goes wrong. And then how do you have the ability to get yourself out in a way that's safe, So I would say that would be something that, good experience would be, we had an opportunity to go into Denali National Park. A friend of ours has a cabin at the end of the park. So we were able to go along the highway, and we took our rig and our family, and we went in to this very remote location where his cabin was. And then within sight of the cabin, we blew a CV joint on our vehicle. And so, we'd gone through 30 river crossings to get to this point, and, we're miles into Kantishner and miles into where his cabin was. So then just the ability to get yourself out of that scenario, right? And that was probably the first educational moment in regards to, do I have the gear? Do I have the equipment? What's my plan? Do I have communications? Do I have this? Do I have that? And we did, fortunately, and we had access and we had resources and we had people, and we were able to get ourselves out in a way that was safe. But, I'd say that that's always something where we took from that experience and thought, okay, how do we kit our rig out? How do we prepare ourselves for if that situation happens again or another kind of situation happens again?
So if you're loading you and your family up for one of these adventures, let's go through some of the considerations you make for water filtration. Like, how much water will you take with you? And do you have anything specific that you use to filter water?
So with water, Alaska's got a lot of access to good water, whether it be through a store, whether it be through certain campsites, state campsites or federal campsites where there's filtered water. So if you need to, we always recommend making sure you have plenty of fuel and plenty of water. So people can go out with water on the Tacomas, and then that's water that we filter at our house and we process it and then send them on the way. With the Forerunners, what we recommend is just as simple a solution as when you go to cars, getting one of those large water bladders and taking that with you. And that would, for the 5 to 6 days, be able to suffice in regards to your trip and your journey. If you that next level for filtration, again, you need to make sure you're concerned in regards to what's upstream of the water. Don't drink unfiltered water. Don't drink glacial water without filtering it too as well. And that could be as simple as just boiling water and then putting it into your storage, or utilizing some great filtration systems, which are out there too as well.
We are big fans of Guzzle H2O because, yes, even when you're in the beautiful Alaska, you don't know what's upstream.
Orca poop.
Orca poop. That would be in the ocean, but you never know. And so how much fuel do your rigs carry?
Well, fuel is a thing you have to manage for sure. The typical Forerunners and Toyota tanks, so they're sitting around about 19 gallons is where they typically sit at. And so, we always say just don't get your vehicle below a quarter tank. And if you're near a fuel tank, just fill up constantly as you go through. We do offer, if you want to whole water and whole fuel, we do have some options for that. But during the summer and even pre and post season, there's a lot of options for fuel and accessibility to fuel. Just never fill up at a tourist spot. For some reason, there's tourist tax when it comes to gas prices. So we just recommend a couple of locations pre and post to where you are to fill up, and it's a better price point for you.
All right, Lisa, I've been telling you, don't go past a quarter tank for at least 25 years. Now we're here to one more time. Don't go past a quarter tank. Still haven't gotten that driven home. So most importantly, when you go out on a trip on your own, what does your coffee supply look like, and how are you making coffee? Assuming you're a coffee guy, I don't know, maybe you're not into coffee. Without
coffee, you cannot get going in the morning. That's my firm belief. Okay. I'm a 2-cup of coffee kind of guy. And typically we like to explore coffee. We're still trying to find the perfect brew option for us. It depends. French press is what we include in all of our rentals. So just getting some boiling the water on the stove, and then finding some French press coffee to go with that. There's a lot of great coffee options up here in Alaska. It's there's a lot of local breweries and local coffee companies that I recommend, and just get out there and explore and try it out and see what different options there are. And as long as it's black and strong and has caffeine in it, I'm pretty good. And I'm still trying to find that perfect cup of coffee. So I'm still exploring.
Craig's our new best friend. That's awesome. Yes, amen to all those things. What are the top 3 things you would never go without on an overland trip?
Hmm.
And French press might be one of them.
Coffee would probably be right up there. Coffee, I'd say the basics: coffee, water, and food. If you've got those, and then clothing, the right clothing, I would say would be the key. And that's just based on your rig, right? Every rig is built differently. Every person's end point is differently when it comes to their rig. So if you're on a motorcycle, you're thinking very different. You're thinking space, confinements, and what do you need to have? If you're thinking about an overlanding rig, again, space is still a factor, even in an overlanding rig, in regards to making sure that every single square capacity that you've got is utilized with the gear that you need to have for that trip and for that journey. Until you get up to your EarthRoamers or your MANs, then size vehicles, then you're a little different, but you still, space is important. So I would say the basics: a good place, a good seat. Fires was always nice to have if you're with family and friends. It's a way that it's good safe fire. So natural gas is getting very popular on that one too as well. But food, the basics: food, water, good clothing, and a good place to sleep. And then just sit back and enjoy the experience.
What's a current family favorite meal when you're out?
I would say steak is always popular in our household. We've got a growing 14-year-old, so anytime that we can throw good protein in front of him, he's happy. Being a Kiwi, I'm a fan of bangers or sausages as well. Is always a good staple. Anything that's hot and quick, and then of course breakfasts are very important for us, and the coffee and pancakes, or that hearty getting started to the day is probably the most important meal. And get fueled and get on the road and see where the next part of the adventure takes you.
Can Chris move in with you?
Are you trying to get rid of me?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right.
What is your next big overland dream trip?
I would say Costa Rica is on our list. We would love to see Costa Rica or into South America. That's on my to-do list. I think that it's very similarities to New Zealand and Alaska, but I think we did Costa Rica with my family when just before the pandemic came through. We just did it as independent travelers. There's a lot of trails that we saw. Again, that case of what's down that road itis was very strong. Yeah, and seeing the amount of camping spots that they had, especially on the eastern coast, to me was we definitely want to go back and do that again with an overlanding rig and to experience that. So I'd say that would be probably my first trip that I'd like to knock out, and then would love to go see South America. That would be the other area too as well. And then Australia would be nice to see from an overlanding experience. And then New Zealand would be okay, but my main priority when I'm there is to see family as well.
It's got it dialed in. Craig, what keeps you inspired each day as you're building your business, Alaska Overlander?
Really, it is creating experiences. I know it sounds corny, but what feeds us is our clients that we have come through. Meeting the people that we meet that come up here, seeing the journeys that they have, the experiences that they have, that kind of fuels us. And we love hearing all the adventures that they do. That emotional connection that people have, not only to the state but to the vehicles. I mean, we've had customers crying as we've driven off in their vehicle because they have a relationship that's built with them. As corny as that sounds, it's true. We name all our rigs individually, and we did that because of that. We wanted that emotional connection to it too as well, so that they, we all Overlanders name their rigs. No matter what there's a name. Sometimes you're cursing it, sometimes you're celebrating it. But everyone has a name, and so we wanted to carry that across to our vehicles too as well, to personalize them. And then as people kind of and they ask how is Denali, how's Nanook, even after they've gone away from their rentals. We talk about our vehicles as they're extension of our kids too as well. So to us, they're all named and they're all personal in their own right. And it's kind of a part of the experience that we have. So really it's the guest experience, and it's those memories that are created. We always get a big kick out of the first introduction that we meet people, because they're just coming off the plane, they're tired, they're frazzled. Typically they're coming from the clothes that they left work in, and so you see you see the business side of people when they're coming off, and you're looking at them and you kind of wonder in some cases, like, you guys are dressed very differently, you're acting very differently, and then by the end of this trip, you see them and they're in their normal clothes and they've been around each other for a good 2 weeks, and they've got this amazing bond of their relationship that they've had over this time too as well, and you're like, all right, now I see the true you. This is amazing. This is awesome. And you get to share the experience and see what they've done and what part of Alaska was their favorite, because every person is different too as well.
If you could put one message on every billboard in the lower 48, what would that be?
That's a very good question. I need to put some thought on that one. Alaska Tourism came out with the campaign that said, "Before you die." And it wasn't received very well locally and externally. But from my time in tourism, especially supporting the cruise ships world of it, I always used to see people that would wait until later on in life to come see Alaska, and because it was a big task or very expensive, or there's a lot of barriers to the state, was perceived to be. And I'd see people that had come up here and it wasn't they weren't in the best health or the best shape to really truly experience what the state had to offer. And so that campaign did resonate with me in regards to come see Alaska when you're able to. Don't wait. Get out there and experience it. Do it the best way you can do, which is hiking outdoors, doing the activities. It's not that difficult to come up here. And then when you get here, it's going to create an amazing experience that you'll have for the rest of your life. So enjoy those memories while you can.
I love it.
What advice would you give your 10-year younger self?
Do this earlier, probably. Yeah, 10 years ago I was in a different stage of my life. So I would say that would be keep doing what you were doing and just do it faster and do it earlier, and just enjoy life and find that balance of work and life earlier would be, and that's easy to say when I'm at the age that I'm at right now, but everything's a balancing act, and live life where you can.
This has been great. Anything that we've missed, Craig?
Well, the typical things that people ask are like mosquitoes and all that fun stuff, and temperature ranges. What else do I have here on my notes?
Ooh, mosquitoes are always my number one biggest concern. Those little bastards are a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
What's your secret? What's your secret to fighting off the little devils?
There is no secret. They are really, the mosquitoes come out like early June and they don't die off till about early August. So that late August through September is another reason why I like that time frame. We always love it when vehicles come back with mosquitoes smeared all over their window screens and the tents, because they've taken a dent out of the population. But, you just manage with it. I would say thermocells are a great option to have, and when you're at site, making sure that the thermocells are around your campsite and creating that barrier. It does work. And then make sure that you have bug nets if you need to, if you're in a bad location. But they're not as bad as what people think. They do come out in batches, and so if you're in an area that's bad at that moment, probably wouldn't recommend staying there for 2 nights. Move on to the next space, and then you'll probably find it'll be a lot better at the next location you go to. So, and then the other question would be probably around bears too, and bear protection. I know you're worried about bears, and that's always the number one question that we get as well. And I would say that, all last year we had very little issues with bears. In our own personal overland experience, the bears up here, yes, you got to be cautious. Yes, you need to be bear aware. But for the most part, they're not used to humans. And so when they do see a human, you go, oh my goodness, there's a bear. And the bear's like, oh my goodness, that's a human. And then you both do the same thing. You both go in different directions. And then you kind of get to experience the amazing of seeing them in the wild. It's make sure the advice that we give is, if you're cooking bacon, make sure you put your bacon fat away from the campsite. Make sure that you put trash inside the vehicles. Make sure that you put food inside the vehicles. If the food's in the fridge, which we provide in all our vehicles, the fridge, keep your food in there. And then the last piece of advice is that would be, vehicles can be replaced, people cannot. So get yourself if a bear is going after food and they're going after the vehicle, let them. It is what it is, right? And make sure that you're safe and removed from yourself from the situation. But the interactions with bears are very minimal and more from that view and pleasure aspect of it. And we've had very little interactions with them at site.
Sounds good. Let's wrap it up with some fun facts about you. What is your favorite type of music? And between you, your wife, and your 3 kids, who's the best singer?
Well, I'm a very good singer in the shower, but no one else would agree with that. I would say that my daughter was probably our best singer. Yeah, she's got a good voice to her. She's got a great ear, and she loves to sing. And as far as music goes, again, we've got a very diverse household in regards to music. So there's something always different playing on the radio, or on the Sonos in our house, or on the radio in the car. And so it's a very eclectic mix, and one that ironically each of us enjoy, but we all have our own favorites.
Tell us about your favorite drink in the morning to get you going.
Coffee. Yeah.
And a favorite beverage at night to wind down?
Alaska is known for pizza and breweries. And so there's a lot of good brewery up here that we can have for that evening brew. So I typically like to see what the seasonal favorites are, and try those out when I'm at camp, and just to see what's the latest and greatest out there. So typically a beer to wind down in the evening, and then followed up by maybe a nice whiskey in the evening.
What's your best advice to aspiring overlanders and adventure enthusiasts listening right now?
I say, you don't have to have the perfect rig. You don't have to have the perfect setup. Just get out there and with what you've got. If it's just a tent and a vehicle, then just get out there and experience it. You can gain gear over time. Don't wait until you've got all the gear to get out there and hike or explore or overland. Go local, experience the spots around you. Just cut your teeth, figure out what you need to do to get your gear together. The one advice I always say to anybody who's building an overlanding rig would be make sure that every single purchase that you do is towards the end journey or the end goal. Overlanding is not cheap, or cannot be cheap. Just make sure that every single piece of gear that you have is to grow your overlanding gear in the future, and get out there and explore it and learn by doing.
Craig, how can people learn more about you and Alaska Overlander and get connected with you?
Our website is alaskaoverlander.com, and then you can follow us on Instagram at Alaska Overlander and Facebook at Alaska Overlander. We do have a Facebook group out there too as well, which we just created last week, and the purpose of that is to kind of allow locals and people that are coming up to the state a chance to chat and talk through routes to take and what to do and share advice. And so that is on Facebook group. It's called Alaska Overlander and Alaska Rooftop Tent. So they can search that and join the group and ask for advice if they need to, or just reach out to us at alaskaoverlander.com, and we'll be happy to help them.
It's awesome. Any more information you'd like to give or useful resources that might help people out?
Number one research, and we have this in every one of our vehicles, is the milepost. The milepost comes out annually. It literally breaks down every single road and highway in Alaska mile by mile. We include one with every single rental. We actually send them out in advance to people if they ask, as long as we've got some available. It's such an amazing resource that we typically say to the passenger, hey, make sure you look up, because there's so much information in there, and it's so enticing in regards to what the next mile is coming up. And then, like we jokingly say that the person who's reading the milepost is like, hey, in a mile from now, you're going to see Denali. And then the driver's like, yeah, I know, look up. It's right there in front of us. But it's a great resource in regards to places to see, campsites, locations to go. That's one thing I'd recommend that everybody have. Our advice would be, don't be afraid to boondock. Don't be afraid to get out there and see what different sites are out there. Mix it in some formal campsites too as well on your route, so that we can do shower and do laundry, maybe catch up on social media. And then if you're already here for a long time, make sure that you even grab an Airbnb or a hotel for those long journeys, so that way you can sleep in a full bed, and have a shower, recharge devices fully if you need to as well. Would be key. And then the couple other pieces of advice would be plan, but be flexible. Book your must-do activities in advance. They do book out early. So, but allow time for you to be able to change your schedule. And then again, we touched upon earlier, weather may be, a factor in regards to your next couple of days. So look at weather, look at, what maybe you go a different direction, or you, instead of that loop this way, you take the loop that way. Look at the weather, plan accordingly. And if weather's driving you out, just go see where it's better elsewhere. It's a big state and very different weather patterns throughout the state. And then also too, just for that flexibility, make sure that you have some time in there to, maybe the Northern Lights aren't great now, but they're going to be available in 2 days at the location where you're at. So allow some flexibility in your schedule to be able to move around with either weather or Northern Lights or any other challenges that may come up too. And then other part of it would be, don't try and do too many miles in a day. It's another thing that can tire people as you're doing long journeys. And sometimes you can just miss things because you're just trying to do too much. So take your time and enjoy that experience and do that. Last bit of advice, and the negative would be, say, try to avoid like heavy local tourist locations on weekends. So like the Seward, a lot of Anchorage'ites will go out and experience Alaska and travel around Alaska. So those places that are close to Alaska on weekends can be busy. So when you're doing your planning, just make sure that, you can try and hit those spots maybe in a weekday and then do more of the interior spots on a weekend as well. So that's all, some of the advice that we can do in regards to route planning too as well.
Ooh, a lot of info. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Craig, thank you so much. You've been just absolutely giving of your time, a lot of information that's going to be helpful for a lot of people. So thank you. Safe travels and adventures to you. When we go through Alaska, don't be surprised if you hear from us, just so we can stop and have a coffee or a beer.
We'd love to catch up.
Or steak or all the above. That's awesome. Thank you again for your time, and we will catch up with you hopefully in August.
Talk soon.